Do it. All right. What a beautiful Monday morning. Well, afternoon, sorry. I'm so used to working nights. I got my day switched around. So today I am going to be doing a reflect on a broadcast that just happened over at the business. As you know, I always tell anybody who watches any of my videos, go check it out over there because it is the truth. So without further ado, um, this is the Reflex. Welcome, welcome. So we got a lot to cover. I'm going to try to do it as quickly as possible. I'm going to touch on some points, but pretty much broadcast that happened, I want to say on a Friday, this past Friday. Let me see, August the 19th, I believe it was. The business, it's now renamed something like, let me see if I can find it. I think it's renamed recently renamed. Originally, the original topic was men in control. Men should have control, something like that. I'm paraphrasing here. Don't quote me. But now it is renamed to reflect what happened and what occurred on the broadcast post-wall meltdown, or also post-wall woman snaps, starring Bethany Benz. Miss Bethany Benz, in her own words, she is a former porn star. That's what she says. She is a former porn star, past tense. And during this broadcast, there were a lot of contradictions that I wanted to touch on. Jay, first of all, you have to go and watch the video yourself. Jason Black, JB, he pretty much went through all of the major issues. He took some phone calls at towards the end as well. But unfortunately, Miss Bethany Benz, as well as another character, I refer to her as Mrs. T, they did not make it to the end. They did not make it to the end. Um, and you will see when they make their leave because I'll make note of it for sure. But first things first. The first thing I want to address is in today's society, we know things are fucked up. I mean, things have always been fucked up, especially because of war and colonialism, slavery, etc. And go on and go on and on and on. So even though we've been civilized, there's still some barbarism that still exists within the society. Shout out to supremacy and all that. Now, in this broadcast, however, the major contradictions I want to talk about is the way they deflect and talk about the value of a woman's youth or age and value. There's a lot of contradictions there, as well as a man's money and the amount of control he should have on his household if he's paying all the bills. Both of these are two things that we know a certain group of women. Usually they align with feminists or modern femmes, whatever you want to call them. But oftentimes they kind of know not to do that because the cat's out of the bag on that side. So they'll claim not to be feminist, even though they share a lot of the same talking points and viewpoints. But at the end of the day, really what it is they don't want they don't want to have to do or say anything that a man says, but they still want that man to provide and for them and protect them and everything as if they were a how can I say if they were traditional wives, although they have no intentions whatsoever to be traditional wives, which is why they have the contradictions on a man and the control of his household even if he's paying the bill, and also when it comes to leverage with the man and his desire for prime aged women, because a lot of these women they're 25 plus, they've already aged out, because most of the women who are young They do that joyride. They don't realize until later in their lives, in which I'm going to play a clip where JB addresses that. But they have fun in their teens and early 20s, and it's not till their late 20s and 30s, and sometimes 40s and 50s until they realize that it's hard to try to get the men that they desired or the men that they used to be able to get with. So the first contradiction comes from uh, the concept of money and men's control. Now, this this first one is just where JB he's asking a question about a man's money and if it matters. And notice the first contradiction here, where uh, Miss Bethany she tries to make it seem as if a man's money doesn't matter. Now there is something interesting that happens there, and I'm going to address it.
Isn't
But
that
I mean, no,
nice?
money, in my opinion, in my life, money is not everything. I value mental health, physical health, just, just life at all. Like, if freedom, money, you can always get that. Money is just a means
Really?
of lifestyle. It's not a means of. So any woman that's just like, or even an American, just like money, money, money. If you drop dead right now, you're in a wheelchair, you don't give a fuck about that $1 billion. No, you don't.
So you don't think that money improves your life?
If you fucked up, no, it does not. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
we're gonna come back to.
Okay, so in this one, be careful to note that she did not exclusively say that money doesn't matter, and there's a reason for that. She's pretty much just trying to devalue or deleverage the power of the money and the finances when it comes to the dynamic of between the man and the husband and wife in this scenario. Because if I'm going to be paying and taking control over everything, I'm going to desire or want or need control over everything because you pay the cost to be the boss. Now the reason why she's trying to devalue that is because that is solely the leverage of the guy. However, here's the caveat: she knows better than to say money doesn't matter. Now some women make that mistake, but what they tend to do is they backtrack on it because we know that women today, unless they're desperate and they have no other option, or they think that they can manipulate a guy and turn him into a producer, women today ideally prefer, by majority, they prefer men that are already established that have money and resources. They don't want bums. Now, Bethany, she did a very good job here. So it shows her, she's had either some practice and or she's fairly intelligent because she knows better than to say something stupid as in money doesn't matter. Now JB does press the point to try to make it clear what she was stating because everything she says there, what does that sound like to you? It pretty much sounds like she's trying to pretty much say money doesn't matter, but she never technically said that, which was smart on her part. But watch what happens when JB tries to clarify or make it clear. Okay, so pretty much you're saying money doesn't matter. But watch her reaction to it, because she knows better than to do that, and she does. And now she realizes, okay, let me backtrack a bit because, mind you, she's just trying to deleverage the power in the situation. She don't want no bum, like most, if not all women.
Yeah, man,
Yes.
will you correct this about this? Are you going to say that money doesn't matter either? That the
No,
person
I,
has.
I didn't say it doesn't matter. I just said
Okay,
it's
Bethany,
not
we
one.
just spoke to you. Okay,
God one,
ma'am,
health two, mental health
we
two.
just, ma'am, okay. I'll come back to you in a moment. You all.
Now, the things that she puts ahead of money, notice that they're pretty much intangibles. There's things you can't technically measure. So, like I said, there's a reason for that because she can simply, it sets the stage for a guy can have money, but if something goes wrong, she can just say he was like a lot of women say today, he was abusive, he was this, he was that, wasn't mentally sane or some crap like that. Like I said, stuff that you can't technically prove until you see somebody's medical records or you deal with them on a personal level. So I've talked about this, how women like to keep things vague and obscure and everything like that. There's a reason for it. It's a tactic. So essentially, she's trying to bluff that money isn't that important, but she also knows that she don't want a bum. So she definitely wants to make clear, like, you can't be a bum. Like, yeah, you got to, They didn't, watch the broadcast, you'll see. But pretty much, she wasn't as triggered on that per se as this next topic, and this one hit her. You can tell she was definitely triggered on this one. The first one, she was just defensive. She was doing, she was setting the stage. She was doing what most, if not all, women do. Okay, I don't want to be put in a position of weakness. JB talks about how women try to avoid risk. So she realizes the risk of admitting to the money and the power. That means she's going to have to do what the very thing that most of those women tend to try to avoid, which is submitting to a man or having to do what a man says, which actually aligns a lot with what we're going to hear later. So, this next part, this is where things start to tip off into a bit of irrationality. And she's talking about age. Now, there are two different things actually being talked about here. So, this first one, it ties together towards the latter end of the conversation because I'm only using clips. But there's the age in general that she's trying to disprove. That one she actually lets go fairly, because she realizes she can't really argue that point too much.
Here's the issue with that, Bethany. You're not as valuable at 30 as you were at 18. Your value has depreciated.
What?
No, ma'am. I hope this isn't a newsflash. You already know this. Even in the porn business that you're in, you know that the 18-year-olds get paid are much more valued. They may not get paid. They're much more.
So notice the straight up denial right there. She just, no, that's not true. Now we know this happens not just with women, but people in general, and they just want to straight up deny anything. You can present the facts, but no matter what it is, they're just gonna, no, that's not true. No, no, no. Because I guess some people think the more you say no, that people will just believe you. Well, no one was believing her, especially JB. So she knew she had to switch up the tactics. There's a few defensive tactics she uses here. One of them actually, which prolonged the conversation, where she realized that she couldn't really state that men outside of her industry, that age, the younger you were as a woman, the better chance or the more valuable you were to men in general. That's the generality of it. So she gave that up, and then she made it so it's only focused within her industry. So in the sex industry. Now this one, she was trying to use her, how could I say it, her veterancy or her expert status in her industry to try to make a point. She's like, "Okay, I've been working in this industry. I know what I'm talking about. Believe me, I don't care what you have to say." Because mind you, she's taken the age generality away from the general public, and now she's like, "Oh, well, in the porn industry, it that's not true." So that's why I said there's two different things here. She's arguing. She tried to deny or argue age in general, and when she realized she was losing footing there, she was like, "Okay, well, let me just make this about the industry." And she did start to use the tactics that are often referred to shame, insults, and guilt. So notice the shaming here.
They have a
No, that's not
more
true.
value
It's
than
the teen porn because it's a lot of pedophiles sells more.
Nani?
But you
Ma'am.
don't get paid. They don't get paid more.
Okay, if you are 20,
So you
if
trying
you're
to
20
tell
or
me you're gonna give
21,
the money to the pedophiles because they
no,
want to
ma'am.
pay
I'm saying if you're.
Now, that was Mrs. T, the face that you saw. And you will notice that I have some bird feathers on them. That's going to come up later, but just keep that in mind. Now, notice how she uses pedophile. Obviously, no one's talking about underage anything, but this is something women tend to do. They always want to shame it. This is very popular to anyone watching this video. You know that whenever someone tries to bring up this point, women tend to be like, "Oh, well, I don't know why you like younger." And she does all this too in the video. I just don't have it all clipped up here. She tried to shame him, talking about, "Oh, you like immature girls. Oh, you don't like we got better, we know more, etc., etc." The same old, same old, same old, right? It's the go-to. That's just what all women do. And they do it for a reason because they understand the leverage that the younger women have on them and the leverage and understanding that they don't have the same leverage with the guys because they know, hey, I can just go get that younger 21-year-old. You see? So then she'll try to shame him and insult him and guilt him into trying to, oh, you just want little young, impressionable girls and you can't deal with a real woman, that kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure we've all heard that. And that's why that's so common. So she goes down that same trope. JB knocks it down fairly well. But I took notice of the pedophile thing, and I will say JB does touch on it later, but she does keep bringing it up. But the conversation continues.
No,
And
ma'am. All
where
you have
are
to
you
do,
getting your facts from? Because
ma'am,
also
go to any club, bar, or beach in the world, and you can see that's proof there.
well, I don't have problems getting
younger
in
chick.
the club or the club or whatever.
Well, if you
And you see again, so remember, constant deflections, constant curbing. Like I said, she's fairly good at this. Like I said, she's probably had this conversation quite a few times. But a lot this is also heard by a lot of women too, where they're like, "Oh, I have no problem getting a guy. I have no problem dealing with guys. Guys come to me all the time, et cetera, et cetera." But we already know if she's older, it's different. Yeah, if a guy's coming to you at 21, yes, not only does he want to have sex with you, but JP also talks about how he also wants to share resources with you, commitment, that kind of thing. So when it's older, it's just the sex. That's something JB touches on later on. When a guy hears that age, it means something different. But she keeps wanting to push the point until eventually, she kind of lets go of certain footing. You remember how I said she kind of wanted to take it away from the general population and focus mainly on her industry.
look a certain way, your value starts to drop. No matter how well you can, quote, physically perform. That's the difference between that and an athlete. As long as he physically performs, it doesn't matter whether he looks like he's 60 years old. If he can play like he's 20, that's great. As a female, I guess the inverse possibly could be true. Maybe you could be 40 and look like you're 20. Problem. As soon as you tell the men that you're 40, it doesn't matter what you look like. That number psychologically is a turnoff.
Now, two things to note there. Notice how, as JB's talking, he's presenting the facts here, right? Notice how she's actually just listening. That's probably the longest period of time that he's talking directly to her, that she just is just sitting there and listening to what he's saying. And you can kind of tell she's like actually listening to some extent. But of course, as always, she's got a defense that she her go-to defense. Remember the pedophilia thing? Now, in addition to that, another thing to note there is she made a remark about a little bit of whataboutism, because when you ask something, say something about women, and then they say, well, what about the guys, or and then you say something, or sometimes effeminate guys use this too, well, what about the girls? People, men and women are different. We both have different standards and values for each other. So the whataboutism bullshit, it doesn't work because it's different. It is very much different. My value as a young man, and I don't got shit, is much different than a young woman who don't got shit. Much different. We are not the same. Now, in addition to that, she denied, she shamed, she tried to redirect the conversation a bit, with the whataboutism, which she was trying to make some point. It's what, that's what she has to do, right? It's a conversation. Now, here's the part where, she kind of, things get a little extra, per se.
Disclose a lady's age. If you'd like to, you can do that if age doesn't matter.
I mean, obviously that matters to you, so definitely doesn't know.
How old are you?
None of your business.
Okay, then the fact that you don't want to say that means that you understand.
Because you
age
attacking me, like, why me? Like, because I'm in a business. Okay, fuck it. Yes, the fucking young 18-year-olds in a band. That's what you want to hear, fine.
Age matters everywhere where women are concerned. And if you want men are going to pay for what they value, and that's something that they value. That's something that we value.
Now, towards the tail, like right towards the end of that clip, she kind of realized, like, okay, fuck it, I can't really argue everything, right? Because she knew, I mean, she knows what she knows, and JB does talk about that too. She knows. It's personal, and she's defensive, and she doesn't want to deleverage herself. because she is older. Because even in that clip, JB straight up told her the question that I definitely want him to ask her at that moment, and he did it perfectly. He was like, "Okay, well, if age doesn't matter, do you mind sharing your age?" And then look at how she denies it. In addition to that, now, if you know anything about facial expressions, little ticks and stuff like this, she does it all throughout the video. But notice the little giggle and stuff like that. The fake laugh, the giggling, the fake smiles. As a matter of fact, if you were to look here, the one in the middle, obviously, if you don't know how to spot a fake file, of course she knows how to prop her face a certain way. She's had picture, she has experience modeling, right? So she knows how to frame her face properly. But that looks like a fake smile to me. The one to your right, where she's more serious, that's right after she made her a remark, and she's pretty much like that's her front face. She's very serious, very fronting. And to be honest, if you were at a poker table, you know, you think she had you. You think she had you beat. She's very serious, very stern. She's like, yeah. And then the one to the left is kind of that face. Now this is towards the tail end of the conversation, but the one on the left, that's pretty much, when she realized the fake smile was going away a bit, and she was realizing it kind of wasn't working. Now, of course, I have to address the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room being this teaming up, the birds of a feather. There was a bit of back and forth with the birds of the feather, right? And I have to talk about it. It will pop up later, but I do want you guys to just keep that in mind, okay? Because I'm gonna have to come back to it, and it's very important as I address towards the end. But after that, of course, there's additional pressuring, additional shaming, and right after JB makes that statement about the age in the industry, once again, she has a defense.
Is a turnoff.
So
So
that sounds like a personal problem to me. So
it also sounds like a personal problem to me. Sounds like
it's called biology. Men on
no,
the
it
whole,
sounds like a personal problem to me.
It
You
sounds like
have
men
some
do.
mental issues,
As
and
you
you can get a 15-year-old to get your dick hard and you're a pedophile. Sorry.
okay, well, you keep bringing that up, so obviously that's something is there some unresolved trauma going on there or something? But,
No, I've never been touched.
so like if you're looking for that type of porn, you're
keeps
probably
bringing that up.
I mean, because you keep bringing
legal,
I'm Asian, you keep looking at me like I'm the oldest person here or something. Like, why?
No, what I'm saying is that when a female starts arguing against what they know to be, you work in a business where contracts are based on.
But I'm telling you, that's not the case. That's what I'm telling you, and that's
you're telling me all these other people lie.
I will not argue if that was the case. I don't give a shit. But it's not the case.
Okay. So at that end, that was the front. She's pretty much like, okay, this is my industry. I know what the hell I'm talking about. That's not the case. That's a straight up front. That, like I said, that poker face. And she I guess she could be fairly convincing. I guess to some guys they'd back down after that. But that's her convincing face. Additionally, JB does touch on that thing, how she's constantly using that word pedophile. Remember the shaming? So she's sticking with that narrative. And to be honest, I don't know. There could be some issues. We're going to talk about that later as we address that. Pedophilia is a serious thing. And unfortunately, victims of it do tend to go into sex work. So I'm just going to make a note there. It happens. But let's continue on from
I'm
there.
telling you, and that's
you're telling me all these other people lie.
I will not argue if that was the case. I don't give a shit. But it's not the case.
Now again, stern, upfront, serious, or at least if you're watching, because that's meant to shock you. That's meant to be like, okay, this is the end. What I say, that's the law. That's it. We're done. That's pretty much what that is. It's the front. It's like okay, next subject. We're done here. That's pretty much what it is. But of course, JB continues to put pressure on it. He doesn't fold. And then she has to switch up the tactic. So now, if you heard from the prior clip, she was like, "Oh, I feel like I'm being attacked and stuff like that." Now she's trying to get sympathy, and create stuff, false flag, stuff that did not happen. Like I said, she's using the book. That's why I said she's had some practice at this. She's had years of practice at this. So she's using the whole book here, guys. So you can literally watch this video and see darn near every tactic used to try to curb, deflect, redirect.
That's number one. Second of all, I don't like
nobody has attacked you, but that's okay. If you feel like that, then I understand, but nobody's attacked you. I simply ask questions. You can give the answer that you want
that's
to.
Fine,
that's
but it's just the questions.
It just seems like you're triggered by sexual habits and lack of youth. And that's okay. We can go ahead and discuss
lack of youth.
Yes, getting older seems to have triggered you and bothered you. So
I'm fine. There's nothing I like.
Ma'am, your face literally just turned to a bulldog right here in front of me. As soon as
I mean, like English is still my second language, so I'm trying to process it through my Russian, just like what you're saying to me.
Okay, well then.
So and it's like it sounded very like
take it slowly. Nice. Take it slowly, but yeah.
So she tried to false flag, and JB addressed it like he should have, and he announced what was going on, and that's exactly what was going on. She was very triggered. Her face did look like a bullfrog for that moment, and right after he said that, and then of course she had a reason for that. She was like, oh well, English is my second language, which was very quick and swift. So like I said, she's had years of practice, and mind you, her English, I've seen another video that she did like 7 years ago. Yeah, her English is fairly good, so she's been speaking English for a while. But like I said, deflection, redirecting, trying to make it appear or seem as what it is, as if it isn't what it is. But look at all the facial tics and everything as you're watching. Like I said, there's a lot of cues to let you know, like, okay, there's some things that actually trigger her, and then a lot of the stuff that she says are also Freudian slips. So there's quite a few Freudian slips in there where I'm like, okay, and there she just said something right there that like that matters right there. But the age definitely triggered her. Also, men with power, that concept, the money thing, her consistently trying to deleverage it, that also created a problem. And then JB also asked something about this was just I thought it was a nice question because it just showed you the dichotomy going on in each of these women's mind. And when I say each of these women's mind, I'm talking about Mrs. T, no relation, right? Let me see here. And Miss B, Miss Bethany. So, Mrs. T, no relation, and Miss Bethany, right? But just a little back, drop on Mrs. T. She's a lesbian. She's married to a woman. And she's in an open marriage. But she said no go to threesomes. Now, mind you, she's had sexual relations with men and women, but she said, but having it at the same time with her partner, a threesome, was crossing the line. They can both go have sexual whatevers with anybody they want to separately, but they can't do it together. Yeah, that's the dichotomy going on right there in their minds. That's showing you. And that's why the birds of a feather thing, that this is how they stay together. The girl code, the sisterhood, pretty much. And since both of them are a bit of sexual deviants, everyone on the panel has had a sexual something with a woman, but obviously the two on the edges have had the most interactions, right? And they kind of stick together. The sexual deviants stick together. I mean, it's kind of expected, to be honest, but that it is what it is. Now, here's where he's talking about the whole threesome thing. And again, just pay attention to what she's saying because it's not so much you're just thinking it's the threesome thing, but really what it is it's deeper than that.
So if you have a fella here, if his money is straight like that, and he expects those things, he wants the threesomes and moresomes, what does Bethany Benz do?
I'm not with it, but I mean, I've been, that I just know when you deal with those situations, that's what the stakes are.
Okay, let me get this straight. Are you saying you've never had a threesome before?
I never said that.
Okay. Have you had a threesome?
She said, I never said that.
I have numerous threesomes. I think you can even see that for my work, like in my personal life also. So, I mean, I'm not a threesome type of person, but I mean, it happened. So.
Right. But what you're saying is that if you had a man who his paper's straight, his social status is straight.
I would not ask for it. I wouldn't do it.
But if that's what he wanted.
Now note and keep that in mind right there. She's not a threesome kind of person. She talks about she doesn't like it, yet she's on camera doing it. She does it for her work, right? If you want to call it that. But obviously she's done it for money. And the ability to make someone do something that they don't want to do for whatever reason. If you have the ability to do that, someone might say that you have power over them, which is why she has an issue with the money and the power of the man and control. Also, I suspect just how personally she took it. Because mind you, this triggered her too. She was already triggered it with the age thing, but you can tell she got triggered here too with the threesome thing because it also related to she did it with the guys on camera for money, but she wouldn't do it with her spouse. I believe that she's had relationships where guys did do it, which she admits to, that did happen. But I think it became so common that she realized, okay, I did it with those guys on camera just for the money. But maybe the guys that she deals with, she struggles to separate rate that from what she's doing when she's working per se, quotations. And you have to realize the power struggle, the dichotomy that's going on in her mind because you should want to please the person that you're with. However, maybe, she's a porn star. She's known for that. So the guys, think of the caliber of guys that would get with a porn star. Hey, if I'm going to be with a porn star, I'm going to want to do everything you're doing on camera too. So if you're going to tell me no, um, there's something deeper there. Because if you do like me, you're capable of doing it. I know you're capable of doing it. But the thing is, if you don't like it, then why are you doing it with the guys on camera for money? You see? So it's a feedback loop. So it's either you do it outside of the money or the money matters, which goes against what she was trying to do earlier. If you're literally willing to, in her mind, she probably thinks of it as degrade yourself for money, then how can you even try to allude to the money not mattering? So you kind of see that weird loop there, but it is what it is. And of course, there's the input from Mrs. T there. Like I said, birds of a feather. I'm going to come back to that too.
But if that's what he wanted.
No, he will drop you if you don't do it. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I'm asking you, though, if you were with him and he wanted that, what's your answer?
Well, I dealt in that situation and I just said, fuck you.
Okay,
Okay, so once again, there's that tough, stern face. She's putting this on for guys, her potential suitors in the future. She wants to make it known that she's still available, but she's making it known because, mind you, she's been approached by certain types of dudes, and even she admits there, if you say no, if you don't do what they want you to do, they'll leave you, they'll drop you pretty much. So imagine how many times that's probably happened in her personal life, right? Which is why it strikes a nerve. It is a personal issue, but which it sounds like a personal issue, something she said. You know, also want to talk about projection there. But she's saying, you have to understand where this is coming from instead of just seeing her front because she's trying to look tough. This is something women try to do when they try to look and act tough, kind of like that guy who walks in the gym, scrawny and small, but he puffs out his chest and he tries to walk. It's pretty much that the tough guy look, trying to look tough, trying to beef up, trying not to look vulnerable, that kind of thing. And this is something that women who try to embrace their masculine side where they think that they have to look tough to the guys and all this stuff, and other women was like, yeah, I'm not weak, I'm tough, look at me, and puff their chest out. I mean, it is what it is. Of course, that comes from years of going through stuff, but that is what it is, and it doesn't help, especially if you're a guy who wants to deal with her. It doesn't help.
Try to understand this. So
Yeah, I turned that down. Yeah.
you did it on video, on DVD, and it can be sold and people can watch it. You did it there, but in your personal life, you would not with the man. You would do it for producers in Los Angeles, but you would not do it for Mr. $5 million a year who pays your lifestyle. You would
Because
not.
that's like, when I did it on camera, it's no emotional attachment. And no matter how hardcore I want to sound, like, in personal life, no matter how much I want to turn off that switch, I just can't. Because I know I'm gonna walk out of there a very damaged person, and I don't want to be that. When I know it's work, it's work. That's not work. That's what you come home to. So that's totally. I don't care about the money. It's not the money. It's like, that means I'm a high score hooker. Like, you might as well just call me that if that's what it is, because it's not a relationship.
Okay.
There is a lot here. So towards the end, she says something. This is, I remember I talked about the Freudian slips, and she's pretty much said like, well, you might as well just call me a high scale hooker, if that, because that's what it is. It's not a relationship. Notice her face and ticks and stuff like that, and it's more so like you can tell she's coming from it's a serious conversation. She's not doing the nervous giggling anymore. This is like coming from a place. Notice the little facial ticks and everything, because she's reaching down into personal experiences there. And you can only imagine how someone thinks of themselves if they refer to themselves as a high scale hooker. What hooker, well, even if the high scale, do you think so positively of themselves? Now this is going to come in important later. In addition to that, she does admit another Freudian slip. I don't know if she realizes what she said here, but she pretty much said like all that stuff she's doing on camera, she's pretty much admitting to that she's going to come out of that damaged. I don't know if you guys understood what she was saying. I don't even know if she understood what she was saying there, because she just kept rambling on so long and she said a lot there. But she was pretty much saying, like, she tried to say in one sentence there's no emotional attachment while she's at work, but at the same time, when she walks out of it, you become out a really damaged person. And then on top of that, there's another contradiction where she said, well, I don't care about the money. But remember earlier, she was willing to do stuff that she didn't want to do in her personal life that she wasn't into, i.e., the threesome, because it was for she was getting paid to do so on camera. Now, I'm going to talk about this later because apparently this seems a lot more common where women are put in situations where, they feel like they have no choice but to do it, even though they do have the choice to do it. So don't feel, I'm not talking about the, rape or anything like that. No, they have a choice to say no and whatnot, but they choose to do it more so either because they feel pressure to do so or they have to pay their bills. So there was a lot there, a lot of Freudian slips there. And I don't think, and this is to Bethany, like, I don't look down on her as a person. Like, no, I want everyone to do their best and succeed. However, there are consequences for your actions, and also what matters is your intent as well. Now, one thing that I would have liked to be asked, but unfortunately she did, abruptly leave the broadcast, was, she didn't technically promote her industry, but she was doing things, the necessary things, to try to not make it seem like she was losing or that she was damaged or in pain or something like that. Even though she admits to some stuff in her life, but she tries to make it seem as if it was past tense. I was suicidal, or and yes, she does say that later. She admits to stuff like that. However, you know, what was can also be in the present. And that's something you just have to be mindful of because, we don't know her state of mind. We don't know how well she's doing. And obviously she was triggered about a lot of stuff. And I wish she would stay on the broadcast. The question I wanted to be asked is if she had like a say a niece or a I don't think she has any children, but you could say a hypothetical if you would you want your niece or your daughter to follow in your footsteps or to take on your profession, et cetera, et cetera. And I would have liked to seen what her answer would have been there. I would have expected some type of jargon word salad, right? Of course but it would have been nice to hear a direct answer because my answer would be no. Hell no. Obviously that's what my answer would be, but I hope that her answer would have lined up with that had she been asked that question. But it would have showed the intent. So, as a person, I have nothing against Miss Bethany here. I actually wish her the best. I hope she gets the help. If she needs help, you know, just leaving it out there. I hope she gets what she needs out of it. But at the same time, you know, if the intentions aren't good, then there are consequences. So be it. Now, JB does talk about the sisterhood, and there's something that we got to get serious on here, and it does pertain to people's choices and the consequences of those choices. And for the guys, for the girls, of course, I hope stop lying, stop feeding this BS narrative that things are great. This also aligns very well with the single motherhood culture. That sisterhood, the gynocentric sisterhood that I talk about, the unforced error, you got to acknowledge their existence because it does exist. And women, and JB talks about how they all circle the wagon to protect themselves. The sisterhood, you must protect the sisterhood at all costs, even when one of the sisters is absolutely wrong, even when something's going on, like you got children out here being abused and murdered, right? You know, and they're being protected by the sisterhood. No one's trying to save the children because they want to protect the sisterhood. But this also goes into the personal lives. And one of the things JB talks about is how women punish failure. They absolutely punish failure. And what you have to understand here is there is this dynamic where a woman can think so lowly of herself. And this is something I get from Jason Black too. And when you get with her, she punishes you because she knows she's not worth a damn. Therefore, you're not worth a damn. And most likely, you're not able to better her life. Therefore, she'll spend whatever time you guys are together to punish you.
One of these days in my fancy clothes, I'm a going back home and punch the nose of the one who broke my heart.
And women punish failure. Absolutely. This is absolutely true. In addition to that, I gotta address I gotta address the elephant in the room. I have to. Uh, Mrs. T, of course, the birds of a feather, they flock together. And Mrs. T absolutely was right there to perpetuate the sisterhood. They were both going, it was a tit for tat, it was a back and forth. It was a tit for tat, it was a back and forth. It was a, you know, hey, let me back you up here.
Finishes with her age. That's
So
just
what happens to men?
That
Like, they go
anybody's
up
value
with age.
diminishes with the age. That's
no,
just
ma'am,
that's
not true. Not true because
Does men's
money.
value go up
Um,
with age?
okay,
your
slow
dick gonna
down.
get hard when you get over 60.
Slow down. First
So see there, a little bit of a tag team going on there. Then in addition to that, when Mrs. T got into a bit of a shabacle, she got, she darn near was trapped herself almost. And Miss Bethany had to step in to help her too.
Specifically, they're still receiving care, usually consistently, because I need to monitor them constantly to make sure it's not going to come back.
Yeah,
Just like
medication is getting much better these days. Like, I'm very proud of our medical. Everything is like, used to need surgery. You don't need surgery a lot. So now it's like, little cot for kids, especially if they don't need surgery anymore. You can do it without surgery. So I'm very proud of our medical stuff. Like, so that's why people live longer.
So they were definitely, tit for tat I scratch your back, you scratch my back. That's the sisterhood we talk about, no matter what was being said. Also, Mrs. T, um, you know, definitely, let's just say she's not a fan of guys. Let's just say that. Let's just say that. Okay. Um, Now things did get serious towards the tail end of the conversation with Miss Bethany. So aside from all the sisterhood, stuff going on between Bethany Benz and Mrs. T, um, things got serious. Now in this clip, actually Mrs. T fell off. So I can only wonder what would have happened had she not fallen off. She would have had to step up there and back her sister up, right? But she fell off, and it was a one-on-one pretty much with Bethany and JB.
Parts of it, I suppose. That might be a little bit
Well, it
different.
doesn't matter. At least I'm not,
At
hiding
least,
behind the shadows.
at least you're not what?
I'm not hiding.
Ma'am, you would have had a better life if you did hide. Because the whole world is seeing you in a situation like that. I wouldn't be so braggadocious.
I mean, I'm still living, I'm breathing, I'm put that behind me. So what's the problem?
With your alcohol in one hand and mental instability in the other, I'm not so certain that this is a life I would want to live. I'm not certain that it is. Parts of
Now, things got really serious, and you can actually tell Bethany, she took some time to digest that, and things got real. Probably because most guys wouldn't talk to her like that. They just, cater to her or whatever, which doesn't always benefit. But JB definitely struck it. He hit it right there on the head. And she did throw a jab at first, so the gloves came off. Let's just be real. She threw the jab. I mean, she's been throwing jabs, talking about pedophilia and it's a personal problem for you or something like that. But let's just be real. She threw some jabs right there, a couple times actually at JB, and he got serious. He said, "Hey, this is okay. Stuff getting real." I mean, it was real the whole time, but let's just be real. She stopped the giggling, the playing around, and things got real serious. Now you can notice some nervous giggling here, but right after that clip, um, she tries to play it off. She tries to do the little giggling thing, but you can tell, it's not a giggle as in it's funny. It's a giggle as in, how people giggle nervously sometimes. And when things get too serious, you might have sweaty palms and stuff, and you kind of giggle just to comfort yourself or something like that. But and also, let's just be real. She on the drink
Drink
a little
my
bit.
wine or not.
She been on the drink a little, all night long, right? But this is pretty much unfortunately, where Miss Bethany makes her exit.
What life is that?
the one you have. Not so certain I would want to do that.
Do you
If
even
I'm-
know the life that I have?
Ma'am, you have been sounding high and intoxicated since you got on the phone with me, before you got on the phone with me. Clearly, you're not happy with your life now. You're not happy with your life as it is. Well, the great Bethany Benz will no longer be joining us.
So right at the end, she definitely, you know, some people when things get too hot, they just gone. They don't want to have to deal with it. She's probably had to deal with it quite a bit, but you know, you notice the progression, how, the fake smile, okay, the shock, some of the things ain't working. She would listen a little bit, and then eventually, right before she clicks off, all the charades goes away, and it's just a plain face and just well, fuck it. I guess you can say she tried to she tried to front, she tried to put on the front, she tried to bluff, she tried to make it seem like, yeah, I'm still out here getting in, I'm valuable, et cetera, et cetera. All the while, she could potentially be suffering behind closed doors. She could be. And the thing is, the sisterhood, this bird of a feather syndrome, where they group together and all their problems, it doesn't help. It doesn't help because when helping someone perpetuate this type of behavior when you're telling them everything's great, they're doing good, nothing's wrong. Um, it and then when they continue to fail, and then eventually it's gonna catch up. You know, you can only lie but so long until eventually reality catches up, and then that's it. But I do want to notice that after that, like, things got a lot more serious. I mean, even Mrs. T, when she came back finally, her connection came back. I don't recall her really saying anything after that. I guess she popped back in, didn't really say much. Um, no laughing, no nothing at all, because to her, the fun had gone away. So she's like, hey, she ain't here. Where'd she go? I don't know. Because, she didn't have no backup. She was like, okay, where's my homie at? I thought we were tagging teaming, but she kind of knew she couldn't really hold her own. So I guess eventually maybe there was connection issues and she left, right? But it is what it is. Eventually she left. But there's some issues there. And JB does talk about them in this next clip where you have to realize, like, the facetiousness, yeah, from time to time. Okay, yeah, I'm facetious with some things. I see a lot of irony in some things. But let's just be real. There's a lot to learn from this encounter. And again, I do hope Miss Bethany does well. I hope she gets the best she can out of life, right? I don't wish anyone bad. I'll never do that. But let's see what JB has to say.
She got very triggered when I talked about men being in control with their money. This is a woman who has done whatever sex acts men want her to do for money since she was 18. We're not going to get anything younger than that because she says she's from Russia. So what happens in Moscow stays in Moscow. But until the feds show up, apparently. However, she's made a life doing that.
Yep. So notice there, JB addresses that potential issue there. Like, I don't know. Like I said, um, sometimes kids, when things happen to them, they eventually go into the sex industry, or often some taboo nature or sexual natures or deviancies happen. That's fairly common. Um, and one thing that I didn't get a chance to address in an earlier clip was the reaction of Mrs. T and how she was pretty much in agreement with whatever it was uh, Miss Beth had to say. And there's a clip where I'm going to have to show where it pretty much makes that clear, because you have to realize when there's someone who's trying to push an agenda. Hold on. Can you close that door? When someone's trying to push agenda, they don't necessarily care about you, the individual. And that's where the sister comes into play, because remember, they're trying to push an agenda. So they don't quite care about you individuals within the sisterhood. All they care about is pushing the agenda, which is trying to fake and fraud that everything's well and everything's great, when in fact it might not be great. Because she was triggered on those things that JB said. She absolutely was. So, there could be some underlying issues there. Additionally, there was the thing with the power.
The reality of the fact is, if her sexual behavior wasn't something she could live with, if men having the bag and she went for it, if you can't live with the consequences of that, well, don't get mad if we discuss it here later. And by the way, I didn't even bring up that aspect of it. I never said, hey, you have sex on film for money. I didn't bring it up. I just talked about your regular life. That's okay. But obviously, she's still very triggered by that. Why? We all know why that is. And the reason why is because, yeah, when men exercise that type of power and influence, that sticks with you.
And that is absolutely true. Actually, I got some clips to support that. So that is fact. Because let's just be real. She's trying to tell herself and the public that she's a strong, independent woman, etc., etc. guys bow at her feet, etc., etc. Of course, she'll say, "I never said that," but let's just be real. Let's cut the bullshit. We get it. She's with the sisterhood. She's down with the sisterhood. We get it. Now, my thing is when you're doing some things that are strange for some change on camera and everybody out there can see it, everybody treats you a certain way. I mean, even if you don't know, I'm pretty sure you know there's a stigma when it comes to sex workers. You know, there is a bit of a lack of respect for them, especially for the women. They're very much devalued. Now, the guys don't get out scot free either, but it's let's just say it's not as severe unless you get an STD or something like that. But it's not as severe. Now, there is something I did want to address. One was the lies that she was talking about. Now, this is pertaining to the sex industry. This is a guy who's been in the industry for a couple of years himself, I believe as a producer and as an actor. And he's talking about on Netflix. It's a Netflix documentary, Hot Girls Wanted. I do have some clips from here. I talked about Stella May. She was on it. Ava Taylor. Those are both two fairly well-known amateur porn stars. Uh, no infamous on emphasis on star, not so much the amateur part because they're plastered all over. If you were to Google search, you could find them. You know, but he talks about how the girls get flushed in and out of the industry,
The
and
shelf life of a girl really depends on like how she markets herself. Worst case scenario, 1 to 3 months. All right scenario, 3 to 6. Best case scenario, if she doesn't catch on to the game, a year tops.
now all these you can find in my description, so you can go check them out. Fair use, of course. Um, but he's pretty much telling you, like, yeah, chicks don't really last that long in this industry, especially the amateur ones, because they get dogged out very quickly, extremely quickly. I think like after like the first, 4 or 5 scenes with the majors, you're just doing whatever it is you can do. There's a lot of little minor, things here and there, which this next clip is about Miss Ava. And unfortunately, Miss Ava, she's perpetuating the very thing that I talked about, how she's coming into the industry with all this promise and vigor that, this is freedom, this is greatness, right?
Dude, ever since I came here, it's been about me. Do I want to be in my parents' shoes when I'm their age? Like,
Yeah.
no. I don't want to have, I don't want to go to college, meet someone in college, marry them, stay in my hometown, have a bunch of kids,
And live there happily
and
ever
then
after.
die there. What? I've done so much shit here.
It's like,
So much,
no, just
more than I've ever done in my entire life. Chilled in penthouses, been in Lamborghinis, rode on street bikes, did all the shit that I've ever wanted to do. I'm like, yo, it's all my shit. It's all me now. Like, here I go. Like, I'm trying to be famous, so gotta do what you gotta do.
Exactly. Gotta be selfish once in your life.
Now, notice at the end, that was actually Stella May at the end, pretty much, sitting there while they're talking to the people putting on the documentary, right? And she's like, "Oh, you got to be selfish once in a while," pretty much boosting what Miss Ava Taylor just said. And a lot of what she said is pretty much why girls get into the industry. Now, there's a bit of some extra in there, but Miss Stella, she said you got to be selfish, and I do believe that's true. Because mind you, what Ava said, it wasn't anything extra. It wasn't like, she had to do it to get away. No, this was the option she chose. This was probably the easiest option she had to what she was doing. Maybe because she couldn't, she wasn't able to get a guy that could do all that stuff she was talking about. So instead, she saw an alternate route. The problem, however, is notice how much like the other women do and what single moms do, they only tell you about the good stuff that's going on. Oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I love my kids, blah 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 blah. But they're not telling you about all the struggle, all the hardships, all the bad stuff that would prevent future women from continuing the cycle from going down the same pathhood. And we see that with the single moms a lot, where we know it's not ideal. We know they're struggling, but why has it continued and grown from where it was, what, 40, 50 years ago? Well, it's because the women have continued this culture. They've continued this culture and cycle of lying to one another, telling them everything's great, everything's good, you can be independent, etc., etc. And we know today that was a lie. All of it was a lie. None of it's true. And even today, it's still being, you know, repeated time and time again, despite knowing what we know. Because some people, some individuals are so selfish, they choose to believe what they want to believe instead of believing what's obviously right in front of them. Now, Miss Stella herself, the one who was just on the tail end of that clip, trying to promote that lifestyle, talking about, oh, you got to be selfish every once in a while. She did that in a camaraderie type of way, like supporting Ava. But this is her. This is Stella with her mom in that very same Netflix series, documentary or docu-series, whatever they call it.
Come on.
But it was an easy escape for me to get out of here, and that's why I picked it. So easy. Quick, fast, done.
You're not afraid of getting sick, baby?
What do you mean?
How do you protect yourself?
We all get tested every 2 weeks.
Are you on birth control?
No, on birth control. We get tested for chlamydia.
And how are you keeping from getting pregnant then?
Well, all shoots, they don't come inside you. Even if it looks like it on camera, they don't. They always do. They always do it on you instead of in you.
So notice how she sounds a bit more down to earth than the earlier clip when she was with Ava, and that's how it is. That group psychology. When they're together, yeah, 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 rah, 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 and they're promoting all this degeneracy. Yes, we can sleep around. Yeah, we can do all this crazy stuff. But notice how she's having a heart to heart with her mom, a one-on-one with her mom. Of course, the camera guys are there, but now she's a lot more down to earth, and she's borderline crying. Pretty much confessing to her mom in privacy. Additional note there, she told her mom and withheld it from her dad intentionally, and the mom helped her do it. So let that sink in. But she's borderline crying, and if you go and watch that documentary, that clip, if you can't hear it, she was definitely ashamed. Especially that tail end part where her mom asks her all these concerned questions like, "Oh, how do you not get pregnant, et cetera, et cetera." And she's like, "Well, they don't do it in you. They kind of," and she kind of got quiet there at the end. She's like, "They kind of do it on you instead." And if you're watching the clip, you can kind of see how she's kind of reflecting on all those occurrences that happen, and you can tell she kind of feels it. You can tell she's ashamed of it, especially talking to her mom that way. And the fact that she withheld it intentionally from her dad, and the fact that her mom withheld it, like I said, the sisterhood is absolute. All of them, as JB said. Next point, there was a issue that was touched on with Miss Bethany, if you don't recall JB talking about
Drink
it.
my wine or not.
Now, people going through some things, struggling, they might resort to, if not abuse of themselves, which if you're a sex worker, it's easy to abuse yourself. Just sign up for a gig, right? But in addition to that, I'm gonna bring in some commentary from some other actors where they talk about how they how their experience was in the industry, and I'm gonna reflect upon what JB was saying and how what he was saying about Miss Bethany, um, it had some weight. It has significant weight behind it, and I absolutely believe it's true. Because I'm gonna start with the guys, and us guys, we're not immune to this overuse in this type of industry. It's just guys are more resilient to it, and we're less susceptible of suffering the shaming aftermath. Actually, a lot of guys, they kind of big up guys when they're porn stars because it's like, oh man, you smashed a lot of chicks. But even so, I'm gonna start with the male I'm gonna say talent or whatever performers, whatever you want to call them, because some people might want to argue like, oh, it's not that bad. Or some people, no, these are the guys. These are some of the guys. And to start with Miss Bethany and what she was doing, this is a guy talking about that very issue.
There was a lot of drugs, and I found myself addicted to cocaine, alcohol.
Now, usually people that do one form of drug, if the problem persists and they need stronger and stronger things, they do eventually graduate. Um, of course, that's why fentanyl is so dangerous nowadays, and it's the danger of overdosing on that. But that was that issue from before, if you don't recall. But once you go watch the original video, you'll this will all make sense to you, and you'll actually be able to spot a lot about what I'm talking about here, as well as some of these other performers. But it doesn't stop there. It wasn't just oh, I get my fix and everything. No, as long as he was in that industry, matter of fact, let him tell you in his own words.
I had to go to work to do the porn so that I could buy the drugs to bury the pain of doing the porn. So I'd go to work and do the porn so that I could buy the drugs to bury the pain. And around it went.
So pretty much it was a non-end, like it just didn't stop. A non-stop cycle. He just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And something, if you guys don't know about the industry, because some of you guys are probably ignorant towards it. You're like, oh man, he's getting a bunch of, what's wrong with him? He's smashing a bunch of hoes. Well, in the industry, you can only imagine how many guys are trying to get in and want to be male performers and talent, right? Which is why, as a guy, you get paid less. Unless you do things that are more taboo. One fact that I found out, guy performers often do homosexual scenes even if you aren't homosexual. It pays more. It pays better. So imagine you having to pay your bills. This is now your profession. You're gonna have to do something strange for some change, just like the women. So when you look at that guy doing the drugs, you're thinking, oh man, dude's drowning in pussy. What's wrong with him? Who's to say he was drowning in pussy? Additionally, he's not the only male actor. If there's something, I will relate this to the original video because there's something that Miss Bethany did say that goes along with this.
Probably 4 years into my time in the business, I was just like, I hate this. I hate this so much. And every day it just got worse and worse. And I was ashamed of who I was. I left porn because I was suicidal.
So he was suicidal. Apparently. Apparently that's more common than you think.
But I signed the consent forms, I signed all the stuff, saying it was okay because I needed to get paid. And then on the porn set, I was bound, gagged, and raped. I was in a rape scene. And after that scene, I went home and I tried to kill myself.
Now these are the male actors. And there was something Miss Bethany, she did say that does concern me. Like I said, I care for her as a person. And I would like to know that, nothing bad happens to her. Just for, you know, just for the sake of it. And I actually would like her to tell her story truthfully to teach others, not with all the bullshit, not with all the jargon, not, you know, sometimes it doesn't pay to defend something, if someone tells you something and it's true and you know it's true and then you try to water it down. Because, like I said, you're feeding the cycle because when you make something appear not as bad, someone might repeat the same mistake. But this is what Miss Bethany said. And note the birds of a feather again, because it was masked within an entire reaction. Because, like I said, it's during the whole clip. The clip is just a part of the thing, so they're having a full conversation. But she did say something, and I want you to listen about halfway through this clip, towards the end.
The nothing that you shouldn't die with is a lack of balance. You
If I'm
shouldn't
dead, I'm
die.
dead. Like, what the fuck do I care? I just want to go to the other side. Fuck it.
Well, that's a rather
This guy here, like, I'm like, what
That's
type of
a rather
degrees do you have?
good.
So that was something. And that's why I play those clips. And that's why I'm going to talk about real briefly this next individual. There's another actress, performer, whatever you want to call her, Miss August Ames. Um, for anyone who doesn't know her, she was an actress, very popular, like the other ladies, Ava and Stella. Uh, she committed suicide. So, to the folks that you don't know, now you know. That's very common. Well, I can't look up this. I haven't looked up the stats to say it's very common, but it doesn't take you long to look up former performers and see how a lot of them have drug addictions. A lot of them have similar stories and stuff. Kind of like, how some people talk crap about their jobs, like they sit around and talk crap about their jobs too, but their jobs are much more serious, you know, especially if you're someone who had to do one of those degrading rape scenes, right? Like the guy who attempted to kill himself. Now I'm gonna get into the ladies. I'm transitioning back to the ladies because, mind you, those were the guys. And they're, to some extent more resistant to a lot of the troubles. I'm not gonna say all of them, but they're more resistant to it. Not immune, just more resistant. Now to the lady performers.
My first shoot was down in Santa Monica, and from right away, I called my manager to tell them I was uncomfortable. And instead of the supportive producer and the supportive manager that I had experienced when I was signing my contract, I got told that I was being difficult, and that if I was going to continue to make money in this industry, that I was going to have to learn how to behave.
So forgive me if it's on my end, it looks like there might be some issues going on. But pretty much this goes back to what JB was talking about in that power, and like you do stuff for someone on camera, and a lot of these ladies, they might get themselves in some situations where they feel powerless, they feel useless, they feel degraded. And if you know anything about psychology, that can eventually lead to someone devaluing themselves and depression and suicide.
I had zero say-so. Oftentimes I didn't even know that I was going to a shoot. One night that I was picked up and I refused. I refused to go, and his reaction to that was to take my phone, to take my shoes, and drop me off in this area of Southern California that was just agricultural. And so there I was in the middle of the night with workout shorts and a sports bra, no shoes, no phone, no money, no purse, just really left by myself.
So imagine feeling abandoned, powerless, useless, just an object. you know? And this works on someone's psyche, but again, like I said, remember the sisterhood is gonna promote this. Now these next clips, I'm gonna introduce a new one. This star, she's talking to some individuals on a podcast. I believe I might have the clip in the description. I'm not sure, but essentially, she too has something to say about. She has a friend who has a very similar story, who's in the industry where they're put in a position and they lack that power.
Like it's either this way or the highway. Like I can't even imagine how that girl felt having to do something that she clearly does not want to do. Like this is not acting, like she's full blown crying.
Mhm.
You know, like there's
So, not sure if things are working here. I might have to do a quick little something to refresh. Matter of fact, let me do this real quick. I'm gonna refresh and I'm gonna be right back because something's going on here where it's acting up on my end and I can't tell what's going on. So I will be right back, people. And let me refresh my side of things. Yeah, so like I said, sometimes when I do things, all of a sudden I have connection issues out of nowhere. But the show must go on,
Drink
right?
my wine on nice.
Now, the next actress, if you didn't recognize, or I didn't put her up yet, but she was on the same, I guess, YouTube program or show, and her name's Lana Rhodes. Very popular, um, very popular. I think she was number one actually. So mind you, like the number one, former number one, porn actress, something like that. Very popular. And you think she was immune to any of this? Of course not.
I don't want to go into too much detail. Like, honestly, some of my experiences are really humiliating for me, and I wish that they never happened. I don't throats there. Sorry.
Oh, don't cry.
Told myself it was negative.
Now I'm crying. I'm like, God damn it. No, don't cry.
I'm
It's
just
okay.
giving some examples, but
No, that's
So yeah, once again, I'm having issues with this thing, but I'm gonna tough it out. I might be able to make it through. So I can't see when the video is ending, it just keeps glitching on my end, but I'm gonna tough it out. So, she breaks down crying right in the middle of, she's telling her story. Of course, I had to keep some things out. Didn't want, I wanted to keep it clean. There were some things that didn't need to be said, but you get it. She had to do some very degrading stuff. Um, and mind you, even on that, thing, it's those ladies, they were still trying to curb. They, like I said, they had an agenda, mind you, sisterhood, feminism. They had their agenda, and instead of them trying to make it seem as if, you know, maybe Lana didn't choose the best uh, profession, they were like, "No, Lana, you didn't do anything wrong. It's these guys out here." So they try to pretty much name and blame the guys. Like, "Oh, look at you guys for liking all this porn stuff. It's on you for liking all this rough porn." And some of you might ask, "Okay, well, why don't they just stop doing it?" Well, remember, they're doing it for a reason. They're doing it for the money. They might say some dumb stuff like it's not about the money. Well, then why the hell are you doing it then? No, it is about the money. It's about the money and the status. Remember how, uh, JB and myself talk about, how important status is. JB actually does a very good job. If you go watch the business, he breaks all that down. There's also a lot of research that I did in the last video where I talk about that and how status can be very useful, very important to people and individuals, more so than the money itself. And also, do remember from the Ava clip, and I believe it was Stella too, where they were talking about they wanted to be famous. Remember, so it wasn't just the money and the traveling. No, they wanted to be famous too, but I don't think they realized what type of status they would be getting because feminism today tells them, yes, sexuality is a plus and all this yah 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 rah rah rah, but they don't realize when you're a porn star, people treat you differently. They don't technically treat you well. Yes, you're famous, but all the guys, you know, good luck trying to find a husband, and even the girls. Okay, you're a former porn star. Women women have their ways. Let's just be real. They're gonna be overly protective of their guys around you, and let's just be real, a lot of their guys are gonna be like, "Wait, your friend is" insert any porn star that he's probably seen, and then those girls are gonna get insecure because they're gonna know their guys are gonna be probably watching your content while they're fapping off, and then they're gonna feel some type of way about you. So that lets you know about the sisterhood. That lets you know about feminism and how they promoting these agendas, um, circumvents the well-being of the individual, right? And let's not forget about the haters. Let's just be real. There's some haters out there. They would not like to see they wouldn't want to see anything but you fail. And some of these haters might be people your friends. And they'll tell you, "Yeah, girl, yeah, get out there and take all them things to the face. All in the mouth. It's good. Yeah." They might know the negative parts of that. They know that after you go do that, ain't no dude gonna want you after that, but they don't care. They don't care. And it's not necessarily now the haters, it's not even really the agenda for them. Maybe they already did it and they're just trying to make themselves not feel so bad because if they do admit to it not being that great, then they'll admit that they're defeated. They don't want that. Now, for the ones that do want to push an agenda, like Miss Bell Knox here, she's known for being the college university. I think she went to Duke University, so shout out to Duke. She's dragging their name through the mud. They were not happy about that. But pretty much, she's out here trying to promote this whole similar to kind of how that whole spiel that Miss Ava was doing, but she did it on national television. She was going, she did a whole circuit. She had a PR team and everything. Was going on news stations talking about how free and wonderful it was being what she is. She could pay her college debt and tuitions. Now, mind you, this is dangerous, people. We know today how student loans are absolutely killing the young people, especially the young girls today, because y'all make up the majority of them. And she's up here promoting this narrative that, yeah, I just did porn and I paid my debts off. Yay. Do folks, I got a daughter, and I don't want my daughter being exposed to this buffoonish, dumb shit right here. Promoting this whole this makes you free, this makes you independent, this makes you, oh, I was able to pay off my debts, only trying to share the good parts. And the funny thing is, and it's not really funny, I'm talking about facetious funny, is Miss Bell Knox makes a debut within that Netflix documentary where Miss Ava and the other porn stars pretty much, they look at, she did a specific scene and they're like, oh, you don't walk away from that not damaged, whatever that scene was. I think it's comparable to the infamous ghetto gaggers or whatever. They just make you do completely humiliating stuff. I mean, completely degrading. Pretty degrading, like what Miss Lana here is explaining.
He asked me to drink it, and I didn't know how to say no. It was one of the most disgusting, foul scenes I ever had to do. And I'm telling a therapist this, and they don't even fucking know what to say to me.
Yeah.
No one can relate. Like, no one fucking knows what to say about it.
Now, that's very important because, like I said, that she's a former number one. She's actually one of the ones that actually did make money or could have made money, right? But there was something earlier that Mrs. T said, and it related to therapy. That's actually one of the clips that I played. It was on the tail end of that where she was talking about therapy, and she made a statement about therapy and how, pretty much you're never done with therapy. Well, these individuals will never be done with therapy. These are the individuals that will pretty much never be done with therapy because they're so broken, so gone. And then, of course, JB talks about therapists as well. So you have to go watch the video to understand where I'm coming from. And it's just, I take this personally. I imagine my daughter being influenced by these girls. Like it might be her friend telling her, "Oh, I went and did some scenes and look how I made some money." And I know that's going to have an influence. Even despite even how I bring her, it's just when she hears that time and time again, and all the women are saying it, all of them. And they're saying it in one way or another. Oh, it's not that bad. Or, well, it's just a job and people have jobs. No. But it seems that there is a trend here, however, because you remember Miss Stella from earlier. Well, she has some time to reflect on her stint in the industry.
I only made $25,000 in 4 months. And after I got out of porn, I had $2,000 left in my bank account. I enjoyed that selfishness for about 4 months. It was enough for me. A lot changed in those 4 months, so.
To me, what's great is great.
So, shout out to the folks who tried to negate all the negatives and be like, well, at least they made a lot of money. At least they made a lot of money. I will say, look into the 80-20 rule. It's very useful when you're trying to guesstimate stuff, and it holds up fairly decently. So essentially, imagine that the top 20% of the porn stars make 80% of the money, and also the top 20% of the studios make 80%. So that's a big number, but there are thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of these performers. Some of them are amateurs; they just dabble in and jump right back out. Remember the earlier one where they might not go for that long. Ironically, Miss Stella here, she only lasted 4 months. That seems to be matching up with that earlier clip, right? But her tone and everything, it's definitely changed. And she's saying that, there's a bit of sarcasm and everything, but it's just like, okay, I did all of that and this is all like really got out of it. all of that. Pretty much completely wreck your life. Eventually, she does tell her dad at the tail end. But just remember how she was at the beginning, how she was promoting and condoning it. She was like, "Rah, rah, hoorah, yeah, freedom." Now, she was at least willing to admit it was selfishness. It was not some type of she needed to do it, although she does try.
A lot changed in those 4 months, so.
I mean, what's crazy is how much you did in 4 months when it comes to videos. Like, that's a lot.
I could say in the whole industry, probably countless girls tried to escape their parents in order to get their freedom like I did by going through porn. At the time, I had it my way, so I was going to do anything I could to keep it that way, but...
It wasn't really your way, though. You just found an
easy route, like, okay, I'm going to do that.
Money,
yeah.
sweet. But, like, you think about it, your way would be doing exactly what you want to do with your life. And I know you didn't wake up one day and realize, you know what my life dream is
to be a porn star. Yeah.
So even then, Miss Stella, she did attempt to justify it, you know, trying to say like she needed to get away from her parents. Now, mind you, you can see her parents in the documentary. She doesn't say anything about abuse. I mean, her and her dad have this thing where they go hunting. I think it's more so like what she was saying earlier, selfishness. But like I said, she has to justify it. And you might not think it's that much, but it's just that little bit of her trying to justify it. Someone's gonna take that like, oh, I need to get away from my parents too. But they'll completely disregard what she was really saying, that Freudian slip she's saying, because she's telling the truth when she's talking when she was referring to the selfishness. Because that's what it is. There are different ways, much like Ava was talking about earlier, where she was rah rah backing her up. Yeah, Ava wasn't talking about she needed to get away from her parents. She was talking about she didn't want to have a. She was pretty much talking about she didn't want to have a boring life. She wanted to get out here and talking about the boats and the yachts she'd been on and going shopping and all this stuff. Like I said, all the positive, all the good stuff that she could talk about. And I'm not ragging on. I'm just telling it like it is. If you're gonna be honest, be honest. Luckily, her dude was there. She's one of the few that's able to get a somewhat decent guy because he actually did make a point. He's like, okay, he kind of caught her slipping and bullshitting a little bit there, and he actually kind of steered her back on course a bit. So, you know, not sure if they're still together though. But she does finally end it here.
Like sometimes I just I'll think about it and just be like, why did I do that? Why would I like want to keep going? But it's really not that hard to take advantage of an 18-year-old that's fucking on camera. I mean, most girls, whenever I was in the industry, would always say yes to anything. So if it had a dollar sign in front of it, sign me up.
Now, mind you, do you recall everything that Miss Bethany Benz was saying? All her little Freudian slips there that you might have thought that didn't mean that didn't matter, it didn't mean anything. But no, she was in the industry for a while. Remember what they were talking about? She was young, dumb, impressionable, even referred to herself as suicidal. And some people might look at this and they're like, oh, well, you know, it just didn't work out for her. And you might think, oh, well, at least Stella, you know, Stella might have made it out. You know, she did 4 months, but you know, Ava was the one that was rah rahing the most, and it's not for everybody, but she was the one that made it. If that's what you want to think, people, I'm telling you, there's a trend here.
Yeah, it's a forced blowjob. And I'm like, what? Just one guy. One little camera on a tripod. Fuck. I was scared. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I could tell him no, or the fact that we already recorded 15 minutes of it, if I could just fucking leave. Like, then what?
So, no, she did not get out unscathed either. There are consequences, folks. Yes, some people can tolerate a lot more than others. It's called taboo for a reason. It's called exceptions to the rule for a reason. But Miss Ava there, yes, Miss Stella lasted 4 months. Ava lasted 6 months. Less than a year. Once again, the statement made earlier by that former guy, he seems to know what he's talking about because both of them are fairly popular, apparently. Stella didn't really make that much. They don't really go into what Ava made. She might have made more. But this is where the truth is important. And when I'm talking about the truth, I'm not talking about some bullshit truth.
This is my truth. This is what I'm going to stand on. If this limits my options, that's okay.
If you guys remember that. No. We need the full truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. Because when you try to bullshit, what you have to understand is there are people out here, like I said, they're trying to push the agenda, and all they want are the good things. Give me something. They will edit out all the negative shit and only push the positive stuff because they're trying to push an agenda. People trying to justify their situations like Miss Stella tried to do, even though she was on the tail end of her career and she realized she was getting the hell out of there. Still trying to justify it. Still trying to make it seem like it's not that bad. Now here goes some of the final remarks as to why this is important, because we need to get people to understand that this type of behavior, this sisterhood mentality of promoting this bullshit, this bad crap, misinformation, JB talks on that. And it's important why it would have been better if Miss Bethany had just been straight up from the beginning.
So with that being the case, we live in a day and an era where folks sit up here and just say that kind of stuff, and we're not allowed to have honest discussions about what you can expect. She would have been a hell of a whole lot better off if she had just said, you know what? I wish I could get me a sponsor who messes with me for real. She would have been a whole lot better off if she had said that. If she had just said that. I'm not here to sit up here and coddle people about that, but she'd be a whole lot better off if that's what she has said. It can be tough to face that. But at this point in her life right here, hell, what the hell you have to lose? What the hell do you have to lose?
In addition to that, one of the reasons why I appreciate JB is because he has accelerated my understanding of the world, my ideology. It would have taken me years because, it requires experience, it requires wisdom, and he has that. And therefore, I'm able to utilize his wisdom and his experience to help myself out. Learn from his mistakes, learn from my own past mistakes, understand that they were mistakes and not trying to justify them, make excuses for them, and try to get better and do what it is I need to do. Because JB says something here that is very important, and you need to pay attention to it.
Well,
in my personal life,
I
so
certainly want
appreciate
folks
you.
to, I want folks to take value away from this. And one of the values I want you to take away from this is dispelling myths and rumors, myths and misnomers about life. It's a hell of a thing to wake up in your 40s and realize you got it wrong. That's a hell of a way to do that. You woke up in your 40s and realized you got it wrong because you are out of the most precious commodity of all time.
That is absolutely true. Imagine you're going through life and like everybody around you is like a bunch of yes men. That's pretty much what the sisterhood is. They're promoting the agenda, and then once you're doing it, all right, you're winning. All right, yeah, that's good. Yeah, do it. Freedom, liberation, whatever the hell they want to talk about. And then by the time you get burnt out, and then you look around and you're like, why the hell didn't nobody tell me these consequences? And you realize people have been trying to warn you from the get-go, but everybody else has been like, oh, don't believe them, that's a lie, that ain't true, giving all these deflections, bullshit narratives, excuses, their truths, remember?
This is my truth. This is what I'm going to stand on. If this limits my options, that's okay.
Because they don't want to tell the bad. They don't want to give out the truth. This bullshit thing that all these single moms and the sisterhood is winning. I've never thought hoes was winning at any point in my life. You gotta be kidding me. Not against competent, capable men. Not against the guys that are actually out here doing shit, getting stuff done. Hell no. Most of these chicks is out here suffering. Most of you dudes are too damn weak to do anything about it. And when you're told all these lies, all this bullshit, you waste time. Time you could have been doing something better with. Time you could have been getting your life on track, raising a family, catering to your significant other, building a relationship, rapport, etc., etc. But there is that selfishness in there. I know that people tend to want to do the easiest thing and not necessarily try to put as little effort into something and get the most out of it. And then they lie to themselves and tell them what it is they need to know, and then they have the yes men behind them or the sisterhood behind them to support them if it goes with what the sisterhood is trying to promote, if it goes with the agenda. Or if they're just trying to do some slick shit. But it needs to end. It needs to end at some point. Because otherwise, some of these older ladies, they're out here. They think they still have option. They're 35, 40 years old or older. Shit, sometimes 25, sometimes past 25. And they don't even understand that they're already done.
お前はもう死んでいる。
They don't even realize it. And they're just out here telling all these other younger women and girls that they're winning and they're doing great, and when they're ready they'll get someone, and then they don't even realize they already lost. They can't really tell you where the majority of them are doing well. Everybody's got some friend. I got a friend who has 5 kids and she's 40 and she found a guy and got married. You know the usual question I ask when someone does that? Okay, would you why don't you take her husband? Would you want her husband? The usual answer is no. That's the part they won't tell you. Yeah, she got married with 5 kids and she's 40, but yeah, he ain't really worth a damn. But like I said, they'll nitpick what they need to try to push the agenda to promote their truth.
This is my truth. This is what I'm going to stand on. If this limits my options, that's okay.
And what do you think that the outcome was at the end of that Netflix documentary? If you've gone and seen it, do you think? Because mind you, in that industry, it's they actually do the same thing or similar thing when it comes to social media, but they have houses and they kind of like accumulate talent within the house. So you'll have like a bunch of girls and sometimes guy talent living in a house, and they all make videos or whatever. Or they get outsourced. They pay rent while they're there, but they're the agency or whatever that they're with, even though it could be a shady little agency that's run out of the house. Um, they're booked, and then they go out and do their shoots, and then they come back to the house. Well, Miss Ava lasted 6 months and left. Miss Stella lasted 4 months and left. And what do you think was the outcome of that? Do you think they share their experience? Do you think that they told those girls, "Hey, this ain't really where it is. You know, the first week or two it might be okay, but like, hey, after that, it's this isn't what it is." Or they tell some other girls like, "Hey, this ain't, there's better options out there. You can try to get a scholarship somewhere. Don't get into this business, et cetera, et cetera." Because mind you, what they were telling you, they were in some pretty shady situations. They were obviously very scared of some things. They were very, very much, damaged walking away. That was very clear. But what do you think the outcome was? Do you think that they shared that experience? Do you think that they were saying, "Hey, all that bullshit I was saying earlier, fuck it. Don't believe none of that. It's all bullshit. This ain't where it's at." Do you think that they helped keep some of those girls from, them continuing the cycle?
What's the thing that made you guys want to do more?
Sex?
Definitely money. A little bit of both. Like
Sex and money.
Yeah, sex and money. I don't like sex.
That was like one of the last scenes in that documentary. They had 8 new girls. So not only did Bella and Stella, I mean, Ava and Stella leave, but I believe they actually increased the number of talent. 8 new girls. So no, they did not, for whatever reason, or at least they weren't successful at keeping those other girls from joining in and continuing the cycle, let alone the damn cycle increased, much like the single motherhood, you know, situation. It increased over the years. Now, I know what you all are asking. There's a clip, and I guess I have to address it. Who was the chick in the middle? She was quiet. Well, if you watch the video, that was Miss Amber. And let's just say she is married, and at least she has kids. Let's just say she was much more reasonable. And some people might take this the wrong way, and they're like, "Oh, she was too quiet and stuff like that." No, she got her points in there too. She was not no yes man. She had some disagreements. She went up with JB too, and guess what? And it's okay. It's okay. Because I wouldn't want my woman to just sit back and everything I say and be my personal yes man. No, if there's a problem, if she has a concern, if she has I would want her to speak up. But here's the thing. She wasn't combative just to be combative, just to push an agenda, even though there might have been there's probably a little bit of that in there. There's a little bit. But it wasn't as major as Mrs. T and Miss Bethany. It was nowhere near as major to that. She was definitely more willing to listen. Actually, a lot of the time, most of the time, she was just sitting there, because the other two were going back and forth and cutting each other off and speaking out of turn and stuff like that. You know? Ain't that right, Miss Beth?
Drink my wine or not.
But that's the main point I took from her was I mean, she didn't have to agree with everything, say yes to everything. No, she had a issue. She let it be known. It's just she was a lot more reasonable. She wasn't arguing just to argue, you know? There was more reason to what she was saying. And that's the main key. I didn't really pick up any really, deflection tactics or any of that really. No shaming, no nothing. None of that. She wasn't defensive at all. Except for she was talking about her therapist thing. She was more so defending what she believes, but she like herself, she wasn't really defending like as if she had something to hide. So that's why I didn't really have to talk about her much because you can just go and experience it for yourself and you will notice the difference between Miss Ambar and the other two ladies. Birds of a feather, right? So I'm finally going to end this one just at the 2-hour mark. My goodness, this was a long one. They tried to keep me out. They tried to keep me out. They tried to keep me from doing what I had to do. But this is information, as always. This is information. And I expect you not to just watch this or sit on this. No, I expect you to get out there and do something. So go out there and use this to your advantage if you see fit.
Don't let me down, man. If you let me down, I don't know what I'd do.
And once again, thank you. This has been the Reflex. And thank you for watching. Go watch the video. It's in the description. Go check out the business. All the other clips, the Netflix series, it will support everything said. Go check it out. Until next time, y'all.